L'ordre du jour appelle maintenant la discussion du rapport sur la situation à Chypre, présenté par M. Horster, au nom de la Commission des questions politiques, document 11699, ainsi que de l'avis présenté par M. Silevich, au nom de la Commission des questions juridiques et des droits de l'homme, document 11727. La liste des orateurs a été close hier à 19h34. Amendements ont été déposés. Je vous rappelle que l'Assemblée a décidé, au cours de sa séance de mardi après-midi, de limiter le temps de parole des orateurs dans ces débats à 3 minutes et de clore les débats, votes inclus, vers 12h20. Je vous propose d'interrompre la liste des orateurs vers 11h20 afin de pouvoir entendre la réplique de la Commission et procéder au vote nécessaire. Il n'y a pas d'opposition, ce n'est pas le cas. Il est ainsi décidé. Monsieur Horster, vous disposez d'un temps de parole total de 13 minutes que vous pouvez répartir à votre convenance entre la présentation de votre rapport et la réponse aux orateurs. Monsieur le rapporteur, vous avez la parole.
Vielen Dank, Herr Präsident. Es ist schade, dass Mr. Talat uns verlassen musste. Ich hätte gern spontan noch einige wenige Sätze zu seiner Kritik gesagt, die ich übrigens seit gestern Abend, als wir zusammen waren, kenne. Meine sehr verehrten Damen und Herren, liebe Kolleginnen und Kollegen, ich bin am 3. April 2006 zum Berichterstatter für diesen Bericht im Politischen Ausschuss benannt worden. Und weil ich mir darüber klar war, dass das Ganze ein sehr schwieriges politisches Feld ist, habe ich sofort Kontakt aufgenommen mit der Delegation der Republik Zypern in unserer Versammlung und den Beobachtern der türkischen Gemeinschaft in unserer Versammlung, um das Vorgehen gemeinsam miteinander abzusprechen. Ich weiß, und es ist ja auch eben wieder durchgeklungen, seit der Teilung der Insel 1974 hat es viel Unrecht und menschliches Leid gegeben. Der Versuch 2004, die Teilung zu überwinden, ist gescheitert und hat zu neuem Misstrauen und zu neuer Feindseligkeit geführt. Und es hatte alles den Eindruck, als würde sehr lange jeder Versuch, eine Einigung der Insel herbeizuführen, erfolglos und zum Scheitern verurteilt sein. Daher habe ich die engen Kontakte zu der zyprischen Delegation und den Repräsentanten der türkischen Gemeinschaft hier in unserer Versammlung geführt, um die Vorgehensweise miteinander abzusprechen, offen und transparent, sodass jeder weiß, was der Berichterstatter macht. Wir haben dann uns darauf verständigt, die Präsidentschaftswahlen in Zypern abzuwarten, die am 28.02.2008 stattgefunden haben und aus denen Präsident Christofias als Sieger hervorgegangen ist. Und dann haben wir eine rapide Veränderung bekommen. Nämlich bereits am 31.03.2008 hat es ein erstes Gespräch zwischen Präsident Christofias und dem Führer der türkischen Gemeinschaft, Herr Talat, gegeben. Man hat sich über weitere Schritte verständigt. Die Verhandlungen gehen bis heute an. Ich will sie nicht weiter im Detail beschreiben, weil man das im Bericht auf den Seiten 11 bis 13, weil man das im Bericht auf den Seiten 6 und 7 nachlesen kann. Ich bin dann mit den türkischen Zyprioten und den griechischen Zyprioten übereingekommen, einen Fact-Finding-Visit zu machen vom 15. Juni bis zum 19. Juni. Auch das finden Sie auf den Seiten 11 bis 13. Und habe versucht, politische Meinungen einzufangen, Einsichten von Repräsentanten des öffentlichen Lebens, aber auch von Nichtregierungsorganisationen, um einen Überblick über die ganze Situation und die neue Lage zu bekommen. Und ich will Ihnen ganz kurz gefasst sagen, meine Einschätzung ist optimistischer als der Eindruck, den wir eben bekommen haben. Und ich weiß, dass Herr Talat selbst auch viel optimistischer ist, als das eben hier schien. Welche Leitlinien habe ich zugrunde gelegt, um diesen Bericht zu erarbeiten. Zunächst war ich der Meinung, es macht keinen Sinn, eine Beschreibung oder gar Bewertung der Vergangenheit vorzunehmen. Dann wären wir nie in der Lage, einen Bericht abzuliefern, außer unter allergrößten Schwierigkeiten und möglicherweise einem riesigen Streit in der Versammlung. Ich wollte keine Festlegungen und keine Feststellungen treffen, die die Verhandlungen zwischen Präsident Christofias und dem Führer der türkischen Gemeinschaft, Herrn Talat, stören können. Drittens wollte ich keine veränderliche Befassung mit dem völkerrechtlichen Status der Republik Zypern und der türkischen Gemeinschaft haben, denn hier hat die Parlamentarische Versammlung des Europarates in einer sehr konsequenten Linie immer die Position vertreten, dass die Republik Zypern das völkerrechtliche Subjekt ist und die türkische Gemeinschaft auf Nordzypern nicht. Das finden Sie konsequent in dem Bericht durchgehalten. Ich weiß, dass das auf Missfallen gestoßen ist, aber wenn ich die Verhandlungen nicht stören will, darf ich genau an diesem Punkt nichts verändern, weil die Statusfragen sind immer ganz heikle Fragen. Ich habe mich darauf ausgerichtet, dass die Mitwirkung des Europarates auf seine Möglichkeiten und seine Fähigkeiten beschränkt sein muss. Hier, wo er helfen kann, wo er Erfahrung hat, wo er eigene Kenntnisse hat, kann er den Prozess unterstützen. Er soll aber keinesfalls in die Aufgabe und die Verantwortung der Vereinten Nationen eingreifen, die ungeschmälert vorhanden ist. Und dann habe ich mich darauf beschränkt, Aufforderungen an die Beteiligten zu richten, bestimmte Maßnahmen zu ergreifen, die die Bevölkerungsgruppen einander näher bringt. Wir dürfen nicht übersehen, dass nach einer Untersuchung jüngster Zeit nur noch 20% der griechischen Bevölkerung unter 35 Jahren überhaupt einen Kontakt zur türkischen Bevölkerung im Norden der Insel haben. Und das ist das größte Trennungsproblem, weil man keine Erfahrung miteinander hat. Und hier hat der Europarat mannigfaltige Möglichkeiten, die Bevölkerungsgruppen zusammenzubringen. Schließlich habe ich mich davon leiten lassen, dass es anzuerkennen ist, dass die Vereinigung Zyperns Angelegenheit der Zyprioten selbst ist, im Norden und im Süden. Und sie müssen entscheiden, unter welchen Bedingungen das Ganze stattfindet und in welchem Rahmen das stattfindet. Und wir müssen dieses Selbstentscheidungsrecht der Zyprioten anerkennen. Der Bericht kann nur unzureichend die Hoffnung ausdrücken, die sich in Europa und darüber hinaus auch in der UN auf die Verhandlungen zwischen Christofias und Talat richten, die vielfach auch als letzte Chance zur Vereinigung der Insel angesehen werden. Aber ich hoffe, dass wir mit diesem Bericht, wenn er angenommen werden sollte, und der Positionierung des Europarates diese Verhandlungen in einer positiven Weise unterstützen und das Vertrauen in die handelnden Personen stärken. Ich bedanke mich für die Aufmerksamkeit.
Merci, Monsieur Horster. Vous aurez encore 5 minutes pour la réplique. Maintenant, on va passer à... Pardon. Non, je vais demander à M. Silevich, qui est le rapporteur par la Commission de questions juridiques, de nous présenter son rapport pour avis. Vous avez la parole.
Thank you, Mr. President. On behalf of the Legal Affairs Committee, I would like to congratulate Mr. Horster and to express our support for the report and for the draft resolution by and large. In the meantime, the Legal Affairs Committee considered it necessary to table several amendments aimed primarily at enhancing references to legal framework. Indeed, legal accuracy is needed to avoid different interpretations of what we say. And we paid particular attention to implementation, execution of the judgments of the European Court of Human Rights, what is sort of ultimate truth in this House. I am sure that the respect to international law, the principles of human rights taken into account EU law, in no way precludes successful search for flexible and creative solutions of these problems. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Mr. Silevich. Now we start with the list of speakers. First one is Mr. Hancock from the United Kingdom. Mr. Hancock.
Thank you, Mr. President. Can I say, I personally think 3 minutes is very difficult to do justice to such a big issue, and I think a lot of members will struggle to make their points in that time. However, having to confine it to that, I would suggest that what we've heard yesterday and today from our Cypriot colleagues, both on both sides of the island, gives us hope that for the first time for a very long time, there is a genuine intent to try and work out a solution to the problem. I would urge our Turkish colleagues who have influence in their parliament to look very carefully at what's been said by the two leaders who've spoken here and to take the message to their government that one of the major steps that could happen would if Turkey would look seriously at trying to work with those two communities of resolving this issue. Without Turkey, this won't happen. And that, sadly, is why I'm profoundly disappointed in the report. Because I think anybody reading this report, and I have a great respect for our colleague who wrote it, or whose name appears on it, but actually I don't think it's as balanced as what it should be to address the issues we faced in trying to bring together grounds for optimism and compromise, a compromise to be found which will enable real peace, long-term solutions to all of the problems that are highlighted in this report. But there is a lack of balance. I was equally disappointed at the Political Affairs Committee at the way in which the amendments that were offered, some of them very fundamental amendments if you really genuinely believe in human rights and justice, for the young people, for education. The fact that the university in Northern Cyprus cannot be recognised and enjoy the facilities that others do. The Greek Cypriots can't have it both ways. They can't say it is one island and then when it comes to educational universities, they discriminate against students in the north. I was disappointed on the previous occasion when we had Turkish Cypriots here that some members of the Cypriot delegation took offence at their presence and formed a mini demonstration. That is not the way for the Council of Europe to behave. Equally, it is not the way for a report which is hoping to offer solutions to one of the most difficult of all problems that this Assembly has faced, and the community, particularly in Cyprus, such a beautiful place, to be halved in the way it is, divided for such a long time, is indefensible. Cyprus deserves better than that. And by Cyprus, I mean the people of Cyprus, irrespective of their ethnic background, deserve better. And this Assembly is not actually going out of its way to bring those communities together if this report does not sustain some of the amendments that are being put forward by colleagues here. And I would hope when the Assembly comes to discuss those amendments, they will be a little more generous to the idea of bringing sides together than continuing the divide. Some of it is very, very destructive in this report, and the amendments were built around trying to bring that consensus together, not stretch it further apart.
Thank you, Mr. Hancock. And now I give the floor to Mr. Laakso from Finland on behalf of the United Left Group. Please, you have the floor.
Mr. Chairman, our rapporteur, Mr. Horster, is saying correctly that there is a new political situation in Cyprus. I think it would be better to define also why this political situation is now new. Actually, there are two new political leaders, and that is the base of the new political situation. Sometimes we know that personalities can play an important role in history, and it is a possibility, better possibility than for long times, that these two personalities play now utmost important role what concerns the reunification of Cyprus. We know that the President of the Republic of Cyprus, Mr. Christofias, actually he has devoted whole his life and political career for the reunification of Cyprus. His speech, by the way, yesterday here in Strasbourg was excellent, and he repeated the initiatives made already in front of the international community, for instance, last week in New York. Also, Mr. Talat, leader of the Turkish community in Cyprus, is well known of his constructive attitude towards the solution of the Cyprus problem. I have to say, as Mr. Rapporteur also mentioned, I was a little bit disappointed to his speech today. I waited that he would respond already to some initiatives made yesterday by President Christofias. Unfortunately, he was not able to do today. So I hope that he is in the near future answering to the positive initiatives what Mr. Christofias made. We can say that the political situation is new in Cyprus because there is now a clear commitment to reach a settlement to the Cyprus problem, which the occupation of the northern part of the island created 34 years ago. Thirdly, we can also say that there is a new leadership, somehow a new leadership also in Turkey. We know that in Turkey there are political forces which are against the reunification of Cyprus. And we know especially in the army there is influential sections which are opposing the solution. We need similar kind of courage from the side of Turkish leadership in order to help solution than they have shown, for instance, around Armenia. Turkey plays now a positive role in many questions in the Middle East region, and I hope that the new leadership of Turkey has a constructive role also in the negotiations which take place now. Naturally, it is Cypriots themselves who have to find the solution. I have to say that at this phase it is not necessary that the international community is actively involved in the negotiation itself. It must be naturally the solution must be based on the UN Security Council resolution, but Cypriots must reach the agreement between themselves. At the final phase, naturally, we can need also the help of the international community. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And now I call Mr. Vareikis from Lithuania on behalf of the EPP group.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yesterday and today we had two speeches of Cyprus leaders. President of the Republic, who spoke yesterday, was very optimistic. The leader of Turkish community, who spoke recently, was optimistic as well. So what the problem seems that everything is going to right direction. But if you read the report, you see what there are long list of problems, and unfortunately, with problem, the solution exclude each other. So what is good for one side is bad for another side. So it's probably difficult today to write the report, what we can call the balanced and satisfactory for everybody. So we see we have a lot of amendments, more than 20, and they are going generally according ethnic lines, not according our political view. So it means that the situation is really not as easy as we sometimes want to present. Cyprus, however, is always the top priority for the Council of Europe, and it is a very good news. We know that the Cyprus problem was never frozen. We always are talking about it. And this can be confirmed by the fact that the community of Northern Cyprus has a seat in this assembly, and we always can consult this community. The problem of Cyprus is not only the problem of communities. When we are talking about it, we have to decide. This is an island country, to divide or to unite. There are islands in the world, like New Guinea, like Kalimantan, like Haiti. They are divided and nobody takes care about the problems there. But they are islands, but we can always keep intact, Sri Lanka, Cyprus. And why Cyprus has to be one country, not two countries? There are a lot of arguments saying it. One is the size of the country, another is history, it was never divided. It's geography between Europe and Asia. We cannot build the iron curtain here. Also the European integration issue. If Cyprus will be divided, I think the future of European Union will be not bright, because we will always say this is a real limit of Europe. So we have to unite the island. We have to unite, but we can never unite people by force. Forced marriages is not European value. So we have to invent the way of unification that would be optimistic for both sides. Now we do another bad thing. Ireland is divided by force. And I think we have to speak very seriously about Turkish military presence and about the things that we can do. And we can do a lot today. I'm sorry I take a few seconds. The property rights, infrastructure, personal contacts, heritage. It's possible to do it now without a general solution. So let's start from that. And I think the general solution will come later. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And now I give the floor to Mr. O'Hara from the United Kingdom on behalf of the Socialist Group. Please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First, I congratulate the rapporteur on what I regard as an open and fair-minded report. And this is just the stance which is required at this crucial stage in a search for a just and lasting solution to the Cyprus problem. Yesterday, the President of the Republic of Cyprus expressed his commitment to negotiate in good faith on the basis of clear and firm principles which have been enshrined in successive resolutions of the UN Security Council and on the founding principles of the European Union. Today, we've had the privilege to hear also from his fellow negotiator, the leader of the Turkish Cypriot community, Mr. Talat, and I wish them both well in their enterprise. The most fundamental of the principles to which Mr. Christofias referred is that the Republic of Cyprus exists as a legal entity and provides the one and only legal identity for Cyprus and for its citizens of all communities on the island. The experiences of the past has led to the evolution of the concept of a bizonal, bicommunal federal republic, but still with one international identity. This requires a strong central government with internal powers devolved to the federated administrations. The UN and the EU support this evolution. The detailed working out of the systems of governance must now, however, be left to the Cypriots, led by President Christofias and Mr. Talat, and ultimately sanctioned by the people of Cyprus, a solution by the Cypriots for the Cypriots. It is important that the negotiations proceed under the auspices of the UN, but the European Union also has a supportive role to play for reasons which require no explanation. My own country, the UK, has a unique supportive role. As a member of the UN Security Council, a member of the EU, fellow member with Cyprus of the Commonwealth of Nations, a guarantor power of the sovereignty and territorial integrity of the Republic of Cyprus, which it helped into existence in 1960, and as the possessor of sovereign bases on the island, land from which could be used not only for the benefit of the Greek Cypriot community, as the rapporteur points out, but also of the Turkish Cypriot community to ease the management of a settlement. That offer was made as a concomitant of Annan 5, but fell when Annan 5 was not ratified by referendum. Given good faith on both sides and good omens for an agreed solution, I am confident that my government would look favourably towards renewing this offer to facilitate the process. Turkey also has an important role to play. It would be of unique and potent symbolic importance if Turkey would formally recognise the Republic of Cyprus, a member of the European Union which it aspires to join. If Turkey would open its ports and airports to Cypriot ships and planes, this would facilitate normal trading relations. This would be conducive to a lasting solution. And Turkey should address the social and political difficulties caused by the presence of a disproportionate number of immigrants from Turkey in northern Cyprus. But the single most important measure which Turkey could take would be to give a credible commitment to the immediate and progressive reduction of the troops on the island and to their eventual withdrawal. The psychological effect of this would be incalculable. Once again, I wish President Christofias and Mr. Talat well in their negotiations towards an agreed, fair, workable and lasting solution in which all Cypriots of all communities on the island may live together in peace, harmony, prosperity and enjoyment of the blessings with which, as we were reminded yesterday, their beautiful island of Aphrodite is so well endowed.
Thank you very much. Now I call Mr. Markov from the Russian Federation on behalf of the EDG Group. I do not see him. The rapporteur will reply at the end of the debate, but does Mr. Horster also wish to reply at this stage? No. Then in the debate, I call next Mr. Kyprianou from Cyprus.
This discussion takes place during a very critical time for the Cyprus problem. Fully-fledged direct negotiations have begun between the President of the Republic of Cyprus, Mr. Christofias, and the Turkish Cypriot leader, Mr. Talat, aiming at reaching a solution to the long-standing Cyprus problem, a problem of invasion and occupation of part of Cyprus by Turkey since 1974. And irrespective of how Mr. Talat has described it earlier, this is how it is described in all the relevant UN resolutions. Mr. President, we have listened yesterday to the President of the Republic of Cyprus, Mr. Christofias, describing his vision for the solution of the Cyprus problem, a solution which will be based on the respective UN resolutions, on the high-level agreement signed between the leaders of the two communities, on the international law, the European and the Council of Europe's principles, a solution which will lead to peace, security, stability and prosperity for the entire Cypriot people. Today we have listened to Mr. Talat describing his own views on the solution. I have to admit that I was disappointed from what I have heard. He distorted historic reality and he insisted on positions which are contrary to the UN resolutions and what I have described earlier.
Cypriots kicked out the Turkish Cypriots from the posts they had according to the 1960 agreement. In addition, they started to attack Turkish villages and to kill Turkish Cypriots. This lasted for 11 years. During that period, a plan called Akritas Plan was prepared by Greek Cypriots. The plan explains that the real aim is to achieve enosis and unite with Greece, but to influence international public, they were putting forward their demand as the right of self-determination. In 1974, Makarios asked help from Greece because he had the information that Greek soldiers in Cyprus were organizing a coup d'etat against him. This was after the coup d'etat in Greece. President of Greece, instead of helping Makarios, together with other generals in Cyprus, realized the coup d'etat in South Cyprus, threw aside Cyprus constitution and declared Nikos Samson as head of the state. There is a state in the south of Cyprus today, but that is not the state founded in 1960 by London Zurich Agreement. No one should use the term occupier for a country like Turkey, who has waited for 11 years and intervened only when enosis, forbidden by 1960 agreement, was on the way to be realized. And this intervention was according to international law because she has consulted United Kingdom and Greece and asked them to act together. There is also a decision of High Court of Greece dated 21 March 1979, and the number of the decision is 2658. It was treated by Konstantin Karamanlis as a top secret document because the decision accepts the right of Turkey to intervene as a guarantor state. Turkish intervention blocked the way for enosis, stopped ethnic cleansing of Turkish Cypriots, brought peace to Cyprus and democracy to Greece. There is a Turkish troop in the North Cyprus state because there is no solution yet. There are English military bases in the South Cyprus also. I think if we really want a just, a durable and a realistic solution, we should be at equal distance to both sides. And for me, this is personal, my personal feeling, I think if we accept a new partnership state, it will be the best solution because it would be one state and under a confederation of two sovereign founder states. It would be a more realistic and a stable solution. Thank you.
Thank you. And now I call Monsieur Branger from France.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Mes chers collègues, je souhaiterais d'abord féliciter notre collègue Monsieur Horster qui a établi un rapport très complet dont je partage tout à fait les grandes lignes. Le rejet par référendum du plan Annan le 24 avril 2004 par plus de 75% des Cypriotes grecs, alors que près de 65% des Cypriotes turcs l'avaient approuvé, avait plongé la plupart des observateurs internationaux dans la consternation. Je crois que ce plan avait été rejeté parce que tout simplement il était déséquilibré et n'offrait pas de garanties suffisantes aux Cypriotes grecs. D'une manière générale, il proposait à ceux-ci de renoncer à des exigences anciennes au nom du bénéfice incertain. Un nouvel accord devrait se garder de reproduire ces erreurs et faire en sorte qu'aucune des deux parties ne se sente lésée. Depuis mars 2008, tous les espoirs sont permis. Les dirigeants des deux communautés chypriotes, sous les auspices des Nations unies, ont manifesté une réelle volonté politique afin de parvenir à un accord en vue de la réunification de l'île. Ainsi, font-ils preuve d'un véritable courage politique que je veux saluer à mon tour. Les négociations techniques ont débuté. Ne nous leurrons pas, elles seront extrêmement difficiles. 3 dossiers en particulier posent problème: la question de la propriété, les dispositions territoriales et la sécurité. Il s'agit de se mettre d'accord sur les conditions d'une indemnisation mutuelle par les propriétés perdues ou la restitution de propriétés qu'ont dû quitter les Cypriotes grecs et turcs après 1974. En outre, au vu des 210 000 personnes déplacées que l'on compte dans l'île, la question du retour ne sera pas facile à régler. Enfin, la question de l'avenir des troupes turques dans la partie septentrionale de l'île reste entière. La Turquie souhaite y maintenir ses 43 000 soldats, alors que les Cypriotes grecs veulent les voir partir et que les Cypriotes turcs espèrent les voir rester. Les négociations seront très certainement compliquées par le sort des colons turcs installés progressivement depuis 1974, dont le nombre est estimé entre 70 et 100 000 dans la partie nord. La communauté grecque acceptera-t-elle que la nationalité chypriote leur soit accordée? C'est peu probable. C'est pourtant une condition posée par la partie turque. Quant à la Turquie, précisément, elle a parfaitement pris conscience désormais que le règlement de la question chypriote était déterminant pour son éventuelle adhésion à l'Union européenne. D'une certaine manière, le succès des négociations en cours permettra aussi d'apprécier l'engagement européen de la Turquie. Pour Ankara, le chemin de Bruxelles passe désormais par Nicosie. Merci de votre attention.
Thank you. And now I call Monsieur Monfils from Belgium.
Monsieur le Président, je voudrais moi aussi féliciter le rapporteur car il avait une tâche difficile, rédiger un texte équilibré mais qui devait s'inscrire dans les résolutions internationales traitant de la problématique chypriote. Le président de la République de Chypre, M. Christofias, a clairement démontré hier son ouverture d'esprit au moment où s'engagent les négociations politiques. Mais les limites sont claires. Il n'est pas question de remettre en cause l'existence d'un seul État, la République de Chypre, mais bien de l'aménager pour le faire évoluer vers un État fédéral. C'est le principe de la fédération bizonale et bicommunautaire. Contrairement à ce qu'a dit M. Talat ce matin, il n'y a pas deux peuples à Chypre, il y a deux communautés, un seul peuple et une République de Chypre reconnue au plan international. Si la position exprimée depuis des années par la communauté chypriote turque est de se fonder sur deux États se rejoignant pour créer un vague organisme central sans pouvoir, il n'y aura évidemment jamais accord. La question est de savoir si du côté du Nord, les choses ont évolué. M. Demetris ne faisait rien sans prendre ses ordres à Ankara. Il faut donc savoir si M. Talat dispose de l'autonomie suffisante pour négocier et, le cas échéant, arriver à un accord, même sans l'aval de la Turquie. Si la réponse est oui, il y a de l'espoir, mais en entendant M. Talat ce matin, j'en doute. On a toujours pensé en Belgique qu'un accord sur Chypre pouvait se conclure pour autant que les Chypriotes négocient ensemble et sans interférence extérieure, notamment de la Turquie. Je voudrais simplement ici rappeler tout de même, comme l'a fait M. Branger, l'attitude condamnable de la Turquie dans certains dossiers qui se refuse de se plier aux décisions internationales, ce qui évidemment pèse négativement dans les négociations. Je cite évidemment l'occupation militaire du nord de l'île qui ne correspond plus à aucune exigence de sécurité. Comment peut-on accepter qu'un État qui veut entrer dans l'Union européenne occupe militairement un État européen? Je cite l'affaire des colons importés d'Anatolie pour grossir le nombre des Chypriotes du Nord. Je cite le non-respect de la résolution 550 qui fait de Famagusta une ville martyre dans laquelle ne peuvent rentrer les habitants. Si la Turquie avançait dans ces dossiers, ce serait incontestablement un puissant moteur accélérant les négociations entre Chypriotes. Monsieur le Président, Mesdames, Messieurs, Chypre peut demain devenir un pays réunifié où la prospérité atteindra l'ensemble de l'île. Mais il faut que certains pays cessent leur danse de mort autour de l'île, que les interventions extérieures ne se produisent plus et que les résolutions internationales soient respectées. À ces conditions, les Chypriotes trouveront entre eux les voies d'un destin que je leur souhaite magnifique. Je vous remercie.
Thank you. Now I call Mr. Retos from Greece.
Ευχαριστώ κύριε Πρόεδρε. Ήθελα να συγχαρώ τον εισηγητή για την ισορροπημένη έκθεση και το ψήφισμα που μας παρουσιάζει σήμερα. Όπως επίσης ήθελα να ευχαριστήσω διαχρονικά όλους εκείνους, τους συναδέλφους, τους παρόντες και τους απόντες, αυτούς που βρίσκονται ή δεν βρίσκονται στη ζωή για την μεγάλη συνεισφορά τους που έκαναν μέσα σε αυτή την αίθουσα, μέσα σε αυτό το Συμβούλιο για το Κυπριακό. Κύριε Πρόεδρε, θα ήθελα να επισημάνω με κάποια λύπη ότι ενώ μας δίνεται ευκαιρία σήμερα να κάνουμε ενωτικές κινήσεις, αυτό δεν βλέπω να γίνεται από τη μεριά των Τούρκων συναδέλφων. Προσπάθησε προηγουμένως η συνάδελφος από την Τουρκία να δικαιολογήσει την εισβολή και κατοχή στο νησί. Αυτό είναι μια υπόθεση καταδικασμένη από τη διεθνή κοινότητα και είναι περιττό σήμερα να επιχειρούμε να δικαιολογήσουμε πράγματα που είναι εντελώς αδικαιολόγητα και καταδικασμένα. Ήθελα επίσης να κάνω μια παρατήρηση στην ωραία ομιλία του κυρίου Ταλάτ. Είπε ο κύριος Ταλάτ ότι λυπάται για την απόφαση του δημοψηφίσματος και δεν μπορεί να το ξεχάσει. Κοιτάξτε, δεν μπορούμε να κατηγορούμε τους Ελληνοκυπρίους για την απόφασή τους. Η απόφαση πάρθηκε με μεγάλη πλειοψηφία και είναι όταν κατηγορούμε για την απόφαση αυτή του Ελληνοκυπρίους είναι σαν να κατηγορούμε τη δημοκρατία επειδή λειτουργεί. Πρέπει να τελειώσει αυτή η υπόθεση. Αυτό ήθελαν οι Ελληνοκύπριοι, αυτό αποφάσισαν. Κύριε Πρόεδρε, αν με ρωτήσετε κατά πόσο είναι ειλικρινείς οι δύο ηγέτες που ήρθαν χτες και σήμερα εδώ, ο πρόεδρος της Ελληνικής Δημοκρατίας και ο εκπρόσωπος των Τουρκοκυπρίων, θα σας πω είναι και οι δύο ειλικρινείς. Και ο κύριος Κυπριανού, και ο κύριος Χριστόφιας και ο κύριος Ταλάτ. Όμως υπάρχει μια μεγάλη διαφορά ανάμεσα στους δύο. Ο κύριος Χριστόφιας μπορεί να κάνει αυτά που είπε. Ο κύριος Ταλάτ αμφιβάλλω αν μπορεί να τα κάνει, γιατί δυστυχώς οι αποφάσεις παίρνονται από αλλού. Είμαι 20 χρόνια βουλευτής, κύριε Πρόεδρε, και έχω ζήσει στην Ελληνική Βουλή και την ελληνική κυβέρνηση. Καμία ελληνική κυβέρνηση δεν επενέβη ποτέ στα εσωτερικά της Κύπρου. Η Κύπρος ανέκαθεν αποφάσιζε και ενεργούσε και εμείς ακολουθούσαμε. Το αντίθετο γίνεται με τους Ελληνοκυπρίους και με την Τουρκία. Η Τουρκία αποφασίζει και οι Τουρκοκύπριοι εκτελούν. Αυτό είναι το πρόβλημα. Αν θέλουμε να έχουμε κάποιο αποτέλεσμα, πρέπει τα πράγματα αυτά να ανατραπούν. Άλλωστε, μην πάτε μακριά. Είδατε τις παρεμβάσεις των Τούρκων συναδέλφων μας. Πόσες τροπολογίες έχουν καταθέσει. Εμείς δεν καταθέσαμε καμία τροπολογία. Επεμβαίνουν ουσιαστικά πλέον σε αυτή την υπόθεση για τον διχασμό του νησιού. Αυτό δεν πρέπει να επιτραπεί στο μέλλον. Και τελειώνω, κύριε Πρόεδρε, αγαπητοί κύριοι συνάδελφοι της Τουρκίας. Καταλαβαίνω ότι δεν είναι δική σας απόφαση η λειτουργία που έχετε μέσα στο Συμβούλιο αυτό. Όμως, κάντε μια προσπάθεια. Αφήστε τους Τουρκοκυπρίους να αποφασίσουν μόνοι τους. Απομακρύνετε το στρατό από την Κύπρο. Η Κύπρος πρέπει να είναι ενιαία, να μπει όπως είναι ενιαία στην Ευρωπαϊκή Ένωση. Η Τουρκία επίσης και η Ελλάδα πρέπει να ζήσουν μονιασμένοι μέσα στην Ευρωπαϊκή Ένωση και το κλειδί, όπως είπε και ο προηγούμενος ομιλητής, είναι η Ένωση της Κύπρου σε ένα ενιαίο κράτος. Έχετε την ευθύνη εσείς να βοηθήσετε μέσα από το Συμβούλιο της Ευρώπης, σας συνάδελφοι, να πείσετε την κυβέρνηση της Τουρκίας να ακολουθήσει τις αρχές του Συμβουλίου της Ευρώπης. Ευχαριστώ πολύ.
Thank you very much. And now I call Mr. Çavuşoğlu from Turkey.
Mr. President, dear colleagues, I know that our rapporteur doesn't want us to deal with the recent history, but I will ask you to remember the recent past. 4 years ago, we were here again debating a draft resolution on Cyprus. It was right after the referendum held simultaneously on both sides of the island concerning the United Nations peace plan. You do all remember that it was the time when we came to the closest to a solution for Cyprus, but a great opportunity was missed. Turkish Cypriots overwhelmingly voted in favor of the solution and integration with Europe, whereas the Greek Cypriots rejected the solution with even greater majority. Back then, we applauded Turkish Cypriots. Back then, we decided to respond positively to Turkish Cypriots' European choice. We all agreed that Turkish Cypriots shouldn't be punished due to Greek Cypriots' intransigence. In Resolution 1376, we decided that we will do all we can to end the isolations. As a result of this resolution, 2 Turkish Cypriot parliamentarians who are democratically elected representatives of their people can sit among us today. I have no doubt that you do remember all this. Then I cannot help asking how come the current draft resolution came into being in this form. It is obvious that some of us, first and foremost, our rapporteur, have difficulties in remembering the recent past I have just revisited. Then I want to ask a question to our rapporteur, then I would like you to ask the same question to yourself as well. What has changed in the past 4 years? What has changed so dramatically that we have before such a draft resolution which is entirely different than the one we adopted 4 years ago? In the past 4 years, even a more enthusiastic leadership for solution has come to power in North Cyprus. You just listened to the President Talat's speech. In Turkey, the government, which gave its full support to the Annan plan, that includes withdrawal of the Turkish troops as well, is still in the power with a strong determination to facilitate a solution in Cyprus. In the past 4 years, it was Turkish Cypriot and Turkey which worked industrially to resume negotiation process. On the other hand, in the Greek Cypriot side, the leader who said yes to the plan during the negotiations, then asked his fellow citizens in tears on TV to reject the plan, is still part of the government. Despite all this, draft resolution can afford to invite Turkey and Turkish Cypriot sides to confirm their pro-solution credential, but fails to make such a call on the Greek Cypriot side, which is the actual protagonist for the rejection of the United Nations plans. Turkish Cypriots continue to live under ever-increasing isolations. They are denied to have even friendly football match in overseas team. Turkish Cypriot universities are left out from the Bologna process. Turkish Cypriot NGOs membership applications to international organizations are either turned down or kept in the limbo. Travel, trade, and communication barriers are all there. Please ask this question finally, Mr. President, to yourself before voting the amendment proposals and the draft itself, and ask another question: how can the Parliamentary Assembly contribute to recently started negotiations in Cyprus with such biased, unfair and lopsided report? Thank you very much.
Thank you. And the last speaker would be Mr. Pourgouridis from Cyprus. Please, you have the floor.
Mr. President, dear colleagues, I sincerely hope that this is the last time that the Assembly debates about my divided country. This beautiful island has remained divided for far too long. The time has come for reunification that would put an end to the occupation of the northern part of Cyprus by the Turkish military forces. The President of Cyprus yesterday made a speech which centered around the future. He spoke about the need to forget the past and look ahead for a bright future for both Greek Cypriots and Turkish Cypriots. Today, to my great sorrow and strong disappointment, I heard the leader of the Turkish Cypriot community, Mr. Talat, speaking only about the past. This is not the friend Talat I knew a few years ago. His speech was a propaganda treatise and not a political proposal. Dear colleagues, The problem of Cyprus is very complex and difficult. For this reason, the task of our rapporteur was not an easy one. Despite the difficulties, he however managed, using his experience and capabilities, to produce a report that is both balanced and extremely useful to both communities in Cyprus as well as Turkey. Like any other report, it is not perfect. One of its main weaknesses is that it makes one or two proposals that are obviously and clearly contrary to well-established principles of international law. I hope that these weaknesses would be removed by the amendments proposed by the Committee on Legal Affairs and Human Rights. But overall, the report is very good, and the rapporteur deserves to be congratulated. The rapporteur very rightly looks to the future and leaves aside the past. When it comes to the amendments, dear colleagues, please remember that we must stand firm on principles. The Assembly must not encourage breakaway movements. The territorial integrity of every country must be fully respected. We must not make proposals that give legitimacy to the de facto illegal regime in the northern part of Cyprus. Any proposal must comply fully with the international law and the rule of law. I conclude by thanking once again the rapporteur, as well as all those of you that have put a lot of work and spared no efforts in helping bringing peace and justice to my divided country. Thank you.
Thank you. And now I must interrupt the list of speakers. The speeches of members on the speakers list who have been present during the debate but have not been able to speak may be given to the table office for publication in the official report. I call Mr. Horster, the rapporteur, to reply, and you have 5 minutes and a half.
Herr Präsident, ich glaube, dass ich die 5 Minuten nicht brauche. Zunächst einmal möchte ich mich bei allen Rednern bedanken, die an der Debatte teilgenommen haben und die ihre Meinung gesagt haben. Es gehört in der Demokratie dazu, dass man gelobt und kritisiert wird. Insoweit will ich auch nicht auf jede Wortmeldung eingehen. Ich will aber auch wegen der Behandlung des Berichtes und der Amendments, die wir noch zu verarbeiten haben, auf eines hinweisen. Ich möchte Frau Kollegin Keleş ganz herzlich danken. Sie ist eine der stärksten Kritiker, auch im politischen Ausschuss, für diesen Bericht gewesen, weil sie ganz offen angesprochen hat, das, was der Kernpunkt in der Diskussion im politischen Ausschuss war, nämlich die Statusfrage. Soll das Ganze zu einer Zwei-Staaten-Lösung führen oder soll das Ganze zu einer Ein-Staaten-Lösung führen? Und ich habe mich auf die Ein-Staaten-Lösung konzentriert, weil das die Position des Europarates seit Beginn dieses Konfliktes ist. Und die Mehrzahl der Änderungsanträge, die kommen, geht auf eine Zweitstaatenlösung im Endergebnis hinaus. Und deswegen war ich gegen diese Änderungsanträge. Dann hat der Kollege Vareikis die Vorschläge angesprochen, die in dem Bericht gemacht worden sind. Und ich will ganz deutlich sagen, alles das, was in den Ziffern 11 bis 16 des Berichtes steht und vorgeschlagen wird, sind Sachverhalte, die begonnen und eingeleitet werden können, bevor es zu einer abschließenden Einigung kommt. Ganz im Gegenteil, sie sollen helfen, eine abschließende Einigung herbeizuführen, weil es Aktivitäten beinhaltet unterhalb der Schwelle der abschließenden Regelungen zwischen den beiden Volksgruppen. Ich bedanke mich bei allen, die sich an der Diskussion beteiligt haben, und Ihnen allen für die Aufmerksamkeit.
Thank you, Mr. Horster. I call Mr. Tsilevich, and you have 2 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. President. In fact, any lasting, durable solution to be effective must be based on some mutually accepted principles. And respect to international law and, first of all, human rights standards must be one of the basic principles of the kind. I must say that I have a lot of sympathy towards our Turkish friends, because indeed it's not an easy task to execute the judgments like Louis Edu case and similar judgments pertinent to the property issues. But still, nevertheless, this must be done, because the court is a cornerstone of the whole Council of Europe, and it's absolutely unacceptable for this assembly to disregard the judgments of the court. If we go this way, it's very dangerous, and I am absolutely sure it will not be effective to achieve a peaceful settlement. So I believe that the amendments of the Legal Affairs are really good. Once again, I would like to express my support for the report and urge your support for the amendments proposed by the Legal Affairs Committee. Thank you.
Thank you. Does the chairperson of the committee, Mr. Lindblad, wish to speak? You have 2 minutes.
Thank you, President. This has been a very important debate, and the issue is of utterly importance that we now have the possibility of a unification of the island of Cyprus. I can agree with what has been said here today, that today's debate was not as optimistic as I found the situation on the island when I visited it in July. I visited on both sides. I even met Mr. Talat, and I would say the optimism is on a higher level on the island than it is when the issue is discussed in here. And that makes me hopeful for the future anyway, because we shall not give up. There is no other solution for Cyprus than being united. And also, Mr. President, I can tell you that we have dealt with a whole lot of amendments, but there are a few amendments at the end. From Amendment 30 and on, we have not been able to deal with in the committee at all. And Amendment number 1 was adopted unanimously, and then you can use the new role if you prefer. The others were voted on. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And the debate is closed now. The Political Affairs Committee has presented a draft resolution to which 34 amendments have been tabled. The amendments will be considered in the order set out in the organization of debates. I call Mrs. Keles to support amendment number 13. Mike, please.
The time.
You have 30 seconds.
30 seconds. Turkey intervened as a guarantor power. Turkish intervention blocked the way to annexation of the island by Greece, stopped ethnic cleansing of the Turkish Cypriots, and ended the bloodshed in the island. Therefore, we expect this phrase in the amendment to be deleted to prevent a biased approach in the report. The words that we want to be deleted is with its northern part occupied by Turkey since 1974. It should be deleted in order to prevent a biased approach, and because of the reasons I have mentioned. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone wish to speak against this amendment? Yes, please. Mr. Microphone, please.
The United Nations, the Council of Europe and the European Union have a totally different approach, and we need to stick on that approach. And I would like to say from the very beginning that it is of vital importance to adopt the terminology used by all the international fora concerning the Cyprus issue.
Thank you. What is the opinion of the Political Affairs Committee?
Voted against.
Voted against. I shall now put the amendment to the vote, and the vote is open. The vote is closed. I call for the result to be displayed. The amendment is rejected. I call Mr. Cavusoglu to support amendment number 14, and you still have 30 seconds.
Thank you very much. This is the accepted terminology also used in the recently started negotiations process between the two sides, as in previous United Nations settlement plans and other United Nations documents. We would like to draw your attention that there are more than 2 communities in the islands. There is a Maronite community, also an Armenian community. However, there are only 2 parties, so that's why we propose this amendment.
Thank you. Mr. Kyprianou, you want to speak against? Yes.
Well, this is an effort from the Turkish side to lead to the direction they aim, to 2 separate states. And I believe that this is not the approach of the Council of Europe, the United Nations and the European Union.
The opinion of the committee?
Against.
Against. I put amendment to the vote. The vote is open. The vote is closed. I call for the result to be displayed. It is rejected. I call Mr. Cavusoglu to support amendment number 15.
Those of you who are familiar with this negotiation process very well known that Mr. Christofias and Mr. Talat participated in these negotiations as leaders of two parties and on an equal basis. What we are asking from the Assembly here is to adopt the terminology used in the current negotiations.
Thank you. Mr. Cipriano, against?
Well, Mr. Christofias was here as the President of the Republic of Cyprus, and I cannot understand why this amendment is raised. The only explanation I can give is that they want, again, to lead to the two equal entities, two separate states, and we have to stop it.
Thank you. What is the opinion of the committee? Mr. Lindblad, what is the opinion of the committee?
The committee is against.
Against. I put the amendment to the vote. The vote is open. So now, amendment number 1, but it was voted unanimously? Huh? I put it to the vote, okay. I put it to the vote. I can close the vote, and I call for the result to be displayed. It is rejected. I call Mr. Monfils to support amendment number 1.
Monsieur le Président, c'est très simple. C'est un amendement qui demande simplement que la solution soit recherchée par les Chypriotes eux-mêmes, sans interférence extérieure. Je pense que cet amendement a été voté, je crois, à l'unanimité en commission juridique et politique. Je vous remercie.
Thank you. Anyone to speak against? I cannot see anybody. Okay, the Political Affairs Committee, as I understand, is in favor.
Yes,
unanimously. Yes, I shall now put the amendment to the vote. The vote is open. The vote is closed, and I call for the result. The amendment is agreed to. I call Mr. Cavusoglu to support amendment number 16.
Mr. President, this paragraph addressed to the United Nations organization, so just mentioning the basic values of Council of Europe and the Parliamentary Assembly, democracy, rule of law, and human rights is enough. We shouldn't go to the details, otherwise it will be messed up. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone to speak against? Nobody. The opinion of the committee?
Against.
Against. I shall now put the amendment to the vote, and the vote is open. The vote is closed, and I call for the result. The amendment is rejected. I call Mr. Cavusoglu to support amendment number 17.
If we use the terms of community or intercommunal, we do not directly refer to the Turkish Cypriots and the Greek Cypriots. That's why we propose this amendment to replace the word with intercommunal to Turkish Cypriots and Greek Cypriots. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone to speak against? Mr. Cipriano.
As I said earlier, it's an effort to degrade the Republic of Cyprus and lead to the direction of two separate states. So I call the Assembly to reject it.
The opinion of the committee?
Committee is against.
Committee is against. I put the amendment to the vote. The vote is open. The vote is closed, and I call for the result to be displayed. The amendment is rejected. Mr. Cavusoglu, amendment number 18.
The terminology we proposed to the two Cypriot parties, this is also in the terminology the two sides agreed to use on common documents prepared in negotiations since April 2008, which is a new terminology, and we propose here.
Thank you. Anyone to speak against? Mr.
It's the same argument, Mr. President. I don't want to repeat it again.
Thank you. The opinion of the committee. Mr. Lindblad?
Against.
Against. I put the amendment to the vote. The vote is open. The vote is closed, and I call for the result to be displayed. It is rejected. I call Mrs. Kellesh to support amendment number 19. Microphone, please.
Amendment, we want to delete the words "and by the Republic of Cyprus," because it is about international community easing the restrictions imposing on Turkish Cypriots. But they did it, but the Greek side did nothing of that sort. So, on the contrary, after the rejection of the Annan plan by Greek Cypriots, the Greek Cypriot side insisted on blocking the way not to only the directorate, but to the other relations, insisted on that. So, in educational, cultural and sporting contexts also prevented by them. Therefore, the Republic of Cyprus should be taken out of this.
Mrs. Kellesh, anyone to speak against? Mr. Cox, please.
Yes, I think, especially after the speech of Mr. Christofias yesterday, there's a good reason to congratulate the Republic of Cyprus with the actions taken. So I'm very much against this amendment.
What is the opinion of the committee?
Against.
Against. I put the amendment to the vote. The vote is open. The vote is closed, and I call for the result. It is rejected. I call Mr. Cavusoglu to support amendment number 20.
Mr. Chalar is going to move.
Sorry?
Mr. President, the declared aim of the negotiations is not to integrate Turkish Cypriots into the Greek Cypriot state. This is the well-known policy of the Greek Cypriot side. On the contrary, according to the ongoing negotiations between the two leaders, the new partnership state will come into being according to the virgin birth concept. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone to speak against? Mr. Kyprianou.
Well, the international community, Mr. President, recognizes the Republic of Cyprus and not a Cypriot state. And again, they want the Turkish Cypriots to be outside the Republic of Cyprus, meaning two separate states.
Thank you. What is the opinion of the committee?
Against.
Against. I put the amendment to the vote. The vote is open. The vote is closed, and I call for the result. It is rejected. I call Mr. Cavusoglu to support amendment number 21.
Mr. President, any restrictions imposed on the Turkish Cypriots should be lifted without any conditions, since the Turkish Cypriots are negotiating with the good faith and bring about the comprehensive settlement. So all the restrictions should be lifted without any conditions. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone to speak against? Mr. Kyprianou.
I believe that the Legal Affairs Committee explains the reason why this should be rejected in a very good way, that everything should be done within the framework of the respective UN resolutions, the European resolutions and the Council of Europe resolutions. So it must be rejected.
Thank you. The Political Affairs Committee?
Against.
Against, and the vote is open. The vote is closed, and I call for the result. It is rejected. I call Mr. Tselevich to support amendment number 6 on behalf of the Committee on Legal Affairs and Human Rights.
Thank you, Mr. President. We believe that the only way to prevent misuse of the measures mentioned in this paragraph is to implement them in full compliance with international law and in particular with the UN Security Council resolutions. Thank you.
Anyone to speak against? I do not see anyone. What is the opinion of the committee?
Committee is in favor.
In favor, and I put the amendment to the vote. The vote is open. The vote is closed, and I call for the result. It is agreed to. I call Mr. Cavusoglu to support amendment number 22.
Since we moved similar amendments and it was rejected, so I withdraw this amendment.
Amendment number 22 is withdrawn. I call Mr. Tselevich to support amendment number 12 on behalf of the Committee on Legal Affairs and Human Rights.
President, we already adopted an identical amendment tabled by Mr. Manfis, so I don't think there is a need to vote for this one. Thank you.
You withdraw it, or the amendment number 12 is withdrawn. I call Mr. Koch to support amendment number 23.
Monsieur le Président, il faut qu'on trouve une solution. Nous le savons tous, oui, mais dès le début des négociations, il ne faut pas oublier qu'il y a deux peuples différents sur l'île, du point de vue d'ethnicité, de la religion, de la langage, de la culture. Des solutions qu'on estime à aboutir doivent respecter l'égalité politique des deux parties. Voilà, c'est pour cela qu'on a donné cet amendement.
Thank you. Anyone to speak against? Mr. Cipriano.
Mr. President, you have two peoples when you have two separate states, and this Assembly has decided that it will not accept to have two separate states in Cyprus.
Thank you. The opinion of the committee?
Against.
Against. I am put amendment to the vote. The vote is open. The vote is closed, and I call for the result to be displayed. It is rejected. Now I call Mr. Monfils to support amendment number 2.
Oui, Monsieur le Président, je retire cet amendement parce qu'il a le même objectif que celui de M. Silevich, amendement numéro 7, et qu'il me paraît que le texte de l'amendement de M. Silevich est probablement meilleur que celui que nous avons présenté. Donc je le retire.
Amendment number 2 is withdrawn. I have received an oral amendment from the rapporteur, Mr. Horster, which reads as follows. Replace paragraph 11.2.1 with the following paragraph. 11.2.1 lift objections to the adoption of the Council of the European Union's direct trade regulation put forward by the European Commission allowing free direct trade between Turkish Cypriots and the European Union through their own ports. I remind the Assembly of Rule 34, which enables the President to accept an oral amendment or sub-amendment on the grounds of promoting clarity, accuracy or cancellation, and if there is no opposition from 10 or more members of it being debated. In my opinion, the oral amendment meets the criteria of Rule 34.6. Is there any opposition to the amendment being debated? Yes, I repeat the amendment. Replace paragraph 11.2.1 with the following paragraph, and I start reading it. 11.2.1. Lift objections to the adoption of the Council of the European Union's direct trade regulation put forward by the European Commission, allowing free direct trade between Turkish Cypriots and the EU through their own ports. This is the end of the amendment. Is it clear now? It is clear now. I see no people. Mr. Porgouridis, you want to oppose? What is it now? This oral amendment is moved by the rapporteur, Mr. Horster. Thank you. Mr. Cipriano.
Mr. Martin.
Mr. Horster, if you could clarify the situation for everybody here.
For explanation, it's very short. Wir beziehen uns hier auf eine Entscheidung der Europäischen Kommission. Und ich habe jetzt den Wortlaut in den Antrag hereingebracht, der dem der Europäischen Kommission exakt entspricht.
Thank you. The amendment has been presented, and I believe nobody objects it. So anybody to speak against that amendment? Please, you have the floor.
Monsieur le Président, je vous signale qu'il y a aussi un amendement 7 qui traîne la même matière, un amendement qui avait été présenté par la Commission des questions juridiques. La position de notre commission était que le problème chypriote doit être résolu par les Chypriotes, mais dans le cadre du droit international. Et je estime que l'amendement numéro 7 est celui qui exprime le mieux la notion de droit international. Je signale que cet amendement a été adopté à large majorité par la Commission des questions juridiques et repoussé par une seule voix par la Commission politique. Donc je vous prie de repousser cet amendement présenté oralement et d'adopter l'amendement numéro 7.
Thank you. Mr. Marty was against this oral amendment. The committee is obviously in favor.
The committee doesn't know because we didn't deal with this amendment. It's new.
The committee does not have any opinion on that oral amendment, and I shall now put this oral amendment to the vote. The vote is open. The vote is closed, and I call for the result to be displayed. It is agreed to. Yes, please, point of order.
Could I just say that I think what has happened has been most unsatisfactory, and it has not been my experience here that we very often accept amendments we haven't had a chance to see, think about and talk over, and it's very difficult to explain so briefly what the real aim behind the amendment is. It's, I think, put all members in a difficulty, and I want to protest.
Thank you very much. Please, point of order, Mr. Laakso.
It was, Mr. Chairman, it was a question of the oral supplement. And I think you should have to ask if there is 10 persons who are rejecting that.
I have asked if there is any opposition to the amendment. I have explained the rules of procedure, and there were nobody here standing up and opposing this oral amendment, and this is why this amendment was put to the vote. The amendment is agreed to, and now I call Mr. Tselevich to support Mr. Tselevich to support amendment number 7 on behalf of the Committee on Legal Affairs. Amendment number 7 falls only in case amendment number 2 had been rejected, but amendment number 2 was agreed to, and this is why we still have amendment. So it's false.
Number two was withdrawn, so amendment 7 is okay.
Okay, thank you very much for that clarification. Amendment number 2 was withdrawn, and this is why amendment number 7 is still valid, and I call Mr. Tselevich to present it.
Thank you, Mr. President. We fully support the idea, but the wording, their own ports, is very unfortunate. It actually implies, indirectly implies recognition of sovereignty of the Northern Cyprus, what is contrary to the UN Security Council resolutions and also decisions of this body. So we suggest very accurate wording. Although it's clumsy, I agree, but I believe in this case we should sacrifice style for the sake of legal certainty. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone wish to speak against this amendment? Yes, please.
Well, the United Nations Secretary General Ban Ki-moon, in his report of December 2007, reiterated his predecessor Annan's call and encouraged the international community to maintain economic, social and cultural ties with the Turkish Cypriot people. Therefore, this amendment would be another step for isolation the Turkish Cypriots. So we should think that it should be left as it is. Thank you.
Thank you. What is the opinion of the committee?
Committee is against.
Committee is against, and I put the amendment to the vote. The vote is closed, and I call for the result to be displayed. The amendment is rejected. I call Mrs. Kelesh to support amendment number 24. Microphone, please.
This amendment is in conformity both with the PACE resolution of 1362 and the statements of the last two United Nations General Secretaries in 2004 and in 2007. We are just asking to facilitate the Turkish Cypriot community's commercial exchanges in accordance with the PACE resolution, and we give the number, and to allow direct flights to and from Ercan Airport under Turkish Cypriot management. That's what we ask, and it is in conformity with United Nations General Secretary's statements and the PACE resolution.
Thank you very much. Anyone to speak against? No. What is the opinion of the committee?
Committee voted against.
Committee voted against, and I put the amendment to the vote. The vote is open. The vote is closed, and I call for the result. It is rejected. I call Mr. Çavuşoğlu to support amendment number 25. Mr. Hancock, please, you have the floor. Microphone, please.
I beg your pardon, Mr. President. It gives me pleasure to propose this amendment because I have had the privilege working for the British Council in universities on both sides of the divide in Cyprus. And if this Assembly stands for anything, it must be for the opportunity of young people to make a difference in their lives. And to deny those young people at university in the north of Cyprus the opportunity of having the same facility and for their education to be treated by others in the same way with the respect it deserves, then this Assembly should be supporting the young people of Cyprus and the future of that country. And there should not be a divide when it comes to opportunity for young people in education. And this Assembly will make a grave error of judgment if they reject this amendment.
Thank you. Anyone to speak against? It is not the case. Opinion of the committee?
Against.
Against. No, I cannot give you the floor. I put the amendment to the vote, and the vote is open. The vote is closed, and I call for the result to be displayed. It is rejected. I call Mr. Çavuşoğlu to support amendment number 27.
Mr. President, we think an additional paragraph to that effect is necessary, given that the similar call is made on the Turkish Cypriot party. Furthermore, the Turkish Cypriot side has already proved its determination, as I explained before, by voting in favour of the reunification of the island in 2004. If there is a party which needs to reaffirm its support for the resolution of the Cyprus problem, this is the Greek Cypriot party, so our Assembly shouldn't refrain from making such a positive call on Greek Cypriots. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone to speak against? Mr. Kyprianou.
Mr. President, the President of the Republic was here yesterday, and he reiterated his will to work for achieving a solution of the Cyprus problem. He is the one who took all the initiatives in the last few months which created all this mobilization on the Cyprus issue. So it's ridiculous to ask him to reaffirm his will for a solution.
The opinion of the committee?
Committee voted against.
against, and I put the amendment to the vote. The vote is open. The vote is closed, and I call for the result to be displayed. It is rejected. I call Mr. Çavuşoğlu to support amendment number 28.
I propose this amendment in line with the 23 May 2008 statement and United Nations parameters. Turkish Cypriots are not after a separate state, otherwise they would not have engaged into a negotiation process, and the Turkish Cypriot side has already proved its determination by voting in favour of the reunification of the island in 2004, as I several times repeated. That's why we moved this amendment, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Anyone to speak against? Mr. Kyprianou.
I wish I was sure that the Turkish Cypriots are not in favour of having a solution based on two states, but unfortunately, the whole discussion we have so far dealing with this report sends the message that they really want a solution based on two separate states. And we need to make it clear to them, if we want to reunify the island, that we shall never accept a solution based on two separate states.
Yes. Opinion of the committee?
Against.
Thank you. The vote is open. The vote is closed, and I call for the results to be displayed. It is rejected. I call Mr. Çavuşoğlu to support amendment number 29.
Mr. Çağlar is going to do.
Yes. Mr. Çağlar.
Okay. In none of court's judgments or in Committee of Ministers' decisions, such an excessive demand takes place. Such a demand is not a conformity with either the court's judgments or Council of Ministers' decisions. The European Court of Human Rights, in its judgment of 22 December 2005 on Senides Arestis case, asked Turkey to introduce a remedy which secures the effective protection of the property rights of Greek Cypriots. In the light of this judgment, a new domestic mechanism, namely immovable property commission, has been established, and the Assembly should refrain from the attempts prejudge the results of these negotiations. Therefore, this paragraph should be replaced, reflecting the real situation.
Thank you. Anyone to speak against? This is not the case. What is the opinion of the committee?
Well, President, I don't know, because in the provisional edition, this amendment was further down and was not dealt with by the committee. So we don't have an opinion.
There is no opinion of the committee.
And it was against. If the committee will not...
Mr. Kyprianou.
Well, I remember very well that the committee had an opinion. That was the last amendment on which the committee had an opinion.
With all respect, Mr. Lindblad speaks on behalf of the committee, and we cannot question that position. So now I put the amendment to the vote, and the vote is open. The vote is closed, and I call for the result. It is rejected. I call Mr. Tselevich to support amendment number 8 on behalf of the Committee on Legal Affairs and Human Rights.
Mr. President, unfortunately, I strongly disagree with Mr. Çağlar, because the judgment of the European Court of Human Rights are completely clear, and indeed they speak not about put on hold, but about put an end to the sales of property. So the Legal Affairs Committee insists that this is the only correct understanding and, of the ruling of the court, which should not be misinterpreted. So we believe this language is more legally correct.
Thank you. Anyone to speak against? Yes, please. Turkani. Madame Turkani. Microphone, please.
Thank you. Actually, property issues are the core problem of the Cyprus issue. But actually, I would like to state to you that the European Court of Human Rights expressed that it is the immovable property commission is fulfill the compensation and distribution mechanism. So that's why we propose to just delete the whole paragraph. Thank you.
Well, you are speaking against this amendment, as I could see. What is the opinion of the committee?
Chairman, this amendment was the last amendment dealt with by the committee, so the following we don't have any opinion on. On this, the committee voted in favor.
On this, the committee voted in favor. I put the amendment to the vote. The vote is open. The vote is closed, and I call for the result. It is agreed to. I call Mr. Çavuşoğlu to support amendment number 30. Again, please, you have the floor.
Thank you. This issue has been covered in the court's judgment of 2001 on Cyprus versus Turkey interstate case. Following the measures adopted by the Turkish Cypriot authorities, the Committee of Ministers, which is in charge of monitoring the execution of judgments of the court, decided to close the examination of this issue on 4 April 2007 by its interim resolution. And I quote, the Committee of Ministers, welcoming the continued functioning of the secondary school in Rizokarpazo since 2004, and in particular the fact that since September 2005, full secondary education to Greek Cypriot children is ensured, noting also the improvement of the regularity framework aimed at securing the basis for the secondary school education offered. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone to speak against? Mr. Porgouridis.
There are still serious problems as regards the education of the children in the northern part of Cyprus. The list of teachers must be approved not only by the authorities of the de facto regime, but by the military from Turkey. Some teachers they do not accept. The books are very much delayed to arrive. It takes weeks for the books to arrive. And therefore, this is a very necessary proposal.
Thank you. There is no opinion of the Political Affairs Committee, so I now put the amendment to the vote, and the vote is open. Excuse me, stop the vote. Mr. Horster, the rapporteur.
Ich habe das Amendment überprüft und habe festgestellt, dass in der Tat das Ministerkomitee im vergangenen Jahr festgestellt hat, dass diese Forderungen von der türkischen Gemeinschaft erfüllt worden sind. Und deswegen bin ich für diesen Änderungsantrag. Der Weg, wenn immer noch Mängel vorhanden sind, das zu verändern, geht jetzt über das Ministerkomitee, denn dessen Feststellungen können wir nichts anderes ohne fundamentale Tatsachen entgegensetzen.
Thank you very much. You would not supposed to speak, but we know that the rapporteur is in favor in any case. And the vote is open now. The vote is closed, and I call for the result to be displayed. It is agreed to. I call Mr. Monfils to support amendment number 3.
Comme l'a dit hier le président Christofias, ce transfert de population, pour des raisons politiques, ne paraît pas acceptable, ne paraît acceptable à personne. Et je pense qu'il faut trouver une solution de retour de ces colons, et c'est l'objet de l'amendement que nous présentons avec des collègues. Merci.
Thank you. Anyone to speak against? Yes, please.
If you look at the report and the past findings, this is something entirely new that is being introduced by the mover of this amendment. So this has no relevance to the topic, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. There is no opinion of the Political Affairs Committee, and I put the amendment to the vote. The vote is open. The vote is closed, and I call for the result. It is agreed to. Amendment number 4. Mr. Monfils, please support this amendment.
Ici, Monsieur le Président, cet amendement donnerait un peu d'espoir aux 30 000 habitants de Famaguste qui sont en dehors de leur ville et qui espèrent un jour y revenir pour passer leur vieillesse heureuse ainsi que de faire vivre leurs descendants. Je pense finalement que cet amendement, s'il était voté, serait une manifestation d'humanité de la part de notre Assemblée. Je vous remercie.
Merci. Anyone to speak against? Yes, please.
Mr. Chairman, this is what amendment offers is giving a city under the auspices of UN. We are trying to clear the outsiders from the island, and this encourages an extra complexity to the problem, sir.
Thank you. No opinion of the committee, and amendment is put to the vote. The vote is open. The vote is closed, and I call for the results. It is agreed to. I call Mr. Çavuşoğlu to support amendment number 26.
Amendment number 26, Mr. Chairman.
Number 26 is withdrawn. I call Mr. Tselevich to support amendment number 9 on behalf of the Committee on Legal Affairs and Human Rights.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Legal Affairs Committee believes that protection of religious monuments and cultural heritage as such is an important legal obligation of all parties to the conflict. So we believe that it would be essential to add this reciprocal point to the text of the resolution. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone to speak against? This is not the case. No opinion of the committee, and I put the amendment to the vote. The vote is open. The vote is closed, and I call for result to be displayed. It is agreed to. I call Mr. Çavuşoğlu to support amendment number 31.
Mr. Chairman, we propose this paragraph to continue its existing contribution in the creation of more constructive climate in the ongoing negotiations, because Turkey already showed its strong will and determination for the solution, and Turkey has already supported all the solutions and the plans, even including the Annan plan, including the withdrawal of the Turkish troops from the islands. So Turkey should continue its efforts. That's why we move this additional paragraph.
Thank you. Anyone to speak against? Mr. Kyprianou.
Unfortunately, Mr. President, recent statements made by Turkish officials speak about a solution based on two separate states. If this approach is helping the efforts to reach a solution, then we should agree with Mr. Çavuşoğlu. But this is not true. This approach is contrary to the UN and the Council decisions.
Thank you. I put the amendment to the vote. The vote is open. The vote is closed, and I call for the result. It is rejected. I call Mr. Tselevich to support amendment number 10 on behalf of the Committee on Legal Affairs and Human Rights.
Thank you, Mr. President. So, in line with our previous amendment, which was supported by the Assembly, we suggest to add the reference to the legal framework also here. Thank you.
Anyone to speak against? Yes, please, Mr. Čebeke.
Mr. Chairman, making reference to the UN resolutions are perfectly fine. However, the UN has some other things. The 2004 Annan plan was an entirely UN plan, and the rapporteur only mentions the resolutions. And probably this is a very selective approach. That is why I'm against this amendment.
Thank you. I put the amendment to the vote. The vote is open. The vote is closed, and I call for the result. It is agreed to. Amendment number 5 falls because amendment number 31 was agreed to.
No, carry on. You put it to the vote.
Huh?
It's okay. Yes, it's okay. Because the 30 votes not agreed.
Oh, sorry, I missed amendment number 10. Yes? Amendment number 10.
Yeah.
Amendment number 5 is fine. We're voting.
5 now. Sorry, yes, we vote number 5. I call Mr. Monfils to support amendment number 5.
Oui, Monsieur le Président, parce que la situation est difficile et pour des raisons de pacification, je vais retirer cet amendement et donc maintenir la proposition du rapporteur qui est de réduire l'occupation militaire de la Turquie. Si déjà la Turquie réduisait ses troupes, ce serait un grand pas en avant. Inutile de mettre de l'huile sur le feu, c'est la raison pour laquelle je retire cet amendement et je m'en tiens au texte du rapporteur.
Amendment number 5 is withdrawn. Amendment number 32, and I call Mr. Çavuşoğlu to support that amendment.
Mr. Chairman, Turkey has put forward an action plan on 24 January 2006, which envisages a simultaneous lifting of restrictions by all relevant parties, and this Assembly strongly supported this action plan, and this action plan is still on the table. While Turkish Cypriots are under the yoke of the isolation imposed on them by the Greek Cypriot counterparts, it is not fair to expect Turkey to open its ports to Greek Cypriot vessels.
Anyone to speak against? Mr. Kyprianou.
This is the main demand of the European Union when it started negotiations for the Turkish accession in the Union. And what we are just doing here, we are just copying the demand of the European Union.
Thank you. And I put the amendment to the vote. The vote is open. The vote is closed, and I call for the result. It is rejected. I call Mrs. Kellesh to support amendment number 33.
Amendment is about missing persons, and here we want to replace paragraph 14.3 with the following paragraph in the amendment. And we do that because Turkey has been cooperating with the Committee of Missing Persons already. Turkey has just recently donated $100,000 to financially support Committee of Missing Persons. And we are interested with these missing persons because we also have more than 500 missing people between the period of 1964 and 74. That's the reason why we wanted to cooperate effectively, continue to cooperate effectively. Phrase to be put in.
Thank you. Anyone to speak against? I do not see anybody. Thank you. I put the amendment to the vote. The vote is open. Next one. False. Yes, yes. The vote is closed, and I call for the result. It is rejected. I call Mr. Celevich to support amendment number 11 on behalf of the Committee on Legal Affairs and Human Rights.
Mr. President, we believe that Turkey, besides obligations stemming from the case mentioned in the report, namely interstate case, has also an obligation to execute all judgments on the cases brought by individuals. And this should be added in our view. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone to speak against? Yes, please.
Mr. President, in the course of negotiations between the two sides that under the auspices of UN, it is agreed that the issues regarding the property would be dealt with the method of global exchange due to the fact that the Turkish Cypriots also left behind a lot of properties in the South Cyprus. The amendment does not mention anything, and it is biased on this approach. That is why I believe that it should be rejected.
Thank you. Now we have no opinion of the committee, so the vote is open. The vote is closed, and I call for the result. The amendment is agreed to. I call Mr. Çavuşoğlu to support amendment number 34.
In fact, this is a call to the UK government. Therefore, our British colleagues might have an interest in this paragraph as well. However, we would like to underline that the owner of the future state after solution will not be Greek Cypriots alone. On the other hand, this issue will be taken up during the ongoing comprehensive negotiations. The outcome shouldn't be preempted, therefore. That's why we move this amendment. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone to speak against? Mr. Kyprianou.
The term they try to introduce, Mr. President, new partnership state, what does it mean? It means that we have two separate states, and they try to build a new partnership state. So this is an effort to introduce their view on how the solution, the final solution should be. Two separate states, and we cannot accept it.
Thank you. I put the amendment to the vote. The vote is open. The vote is closed, and I call for the result. It is rejected. We will now proceed to vote on the whole of the draft resolution contained in document number 11699 as amended. The vote is open. Shall we start the next debate immediately? We will wait for the President. Shall we adjourn the meeting now? What do we do next? The vote is closed, and I call for the result to be displayed. The draft resolution in document 11699 as amended is adopted. Thank you very much. Shall I continue? Well, I will make a pause, short pause. People. I gave a chance to people to stand up. No. But suddenly people started to protest actively. Mr. Horster, I did my best to support your oral amendment. People started hating me, but no, it was. Thank you. Is he coming or you don't know?